Hey juniors, this is the last intro video to get you set up right for the year. By now you've got a little intro to Mr. Bruce and myself, hopefully posted on Flipgrid. You should have got an introduction to the learning playlist and learned about how we're going to get 100% on everything and we'll be at different paces, and that's a good thing, and how to not fake it and like just be real with your learning. And then you also got a little intro on how to make the most of Khan Academy. This is the last video talking about how we're going to take notes this year, which is going to be even more important than in past years because Mr. Bruce and I are just me in my P5. We can't see your notes on a daily basis. So you have to make a process to do that. Notes are always good for your learning. So I'm going to show you we're going to take notes this year. And it's definitely not optional. And it's going to be helpful for your learning. So let me share my screen and dive in. So let's say you were starting on objective 1.1.1. If you clicked on that link in the Algebra 2 learning playlist, it would bring you right here to this article. Pretty nice intro article into what equations are. And you might be wondering, like, how do I take notes on it now? So before I dive into this, I'm actually going to show you the notes templates you are being asked to follow for all of the notes you take this year. And if you want to find that template, I'll go to my P1's Google Classroom. So start with going to your Google Classroom. And then for all of my Algebra 2 classes, all of my junior classes, and I'll go to P1, I have linked in those top classroom resources. So if you go to classwork, the very top assignments, which won't move, are the link to our Zoom room and office hours. Click on the Algebra 2 syllabus and other calculus resources. And then I noted here what you'll find in the other calculus resources, and one of them is the notes template. So I'm going to click on this folder. Now I can modify this document because this is my folder, like I made it. When you all get here, what I want you to do is one of two things. One way you can take notes is just regular pencil and a notebook this year. And so all you would do is click on this and then recreate this template in your notebook. For every single note you take, have this header where you say like what the objective is, the unit we're on, the date, the title of the actual thing, and the source. So it might be Khan Academy, it might be IXL, it might be a Mr. Riggs or a Mr. Bruce video, it might be some other resource. So just say where the source came from, and you can check what type of thing it is. And then I'm gonna pause real quick just to show you all what I was doing. So I read this article. I'll go slower in a second to actually go through what I did. And then I just took notes in my notebook, and I'll show you, like, it's hard to see right here, but I have the template I used, and then I'll show you all a better photo. I think you can see this. So I just took a picture of my notebook. You can see, I'll go back to the template. We can kind of get a little side by side. You can see I have the header, so I have the objective, which is 1.1.1. I have the unit it's in. If you're wondering what unit it's in, it's not going to match the Khan Academy unit. It's going to match this unit right here in the Algebra 2 learning playlist. And then looking back at the template and back at my work, I have today's date, that's the date for me. I have intro to equations, which is the title of this Khan Academy, and I have sources Khan Academy. And I didn't write all the things on the side. I just wrote Khan Academy article. For math facts, this article defined an equation really well. It defined what it meant by a true equation and also an algebraic equation. For me, a math fact is just anything that you need to remember for a math subject. So like it could be a key point, a formula, some important information. But if you've ever had the thought of like, oh, I need to remember that, it probably should go in your math facts, like vocab for sure, math facts. And then I took notes on true and false equations, which was a big part of this article. So that's one way you can take notes. And if you're like, I don't want to do a tech way, I just encourage you to have your notebook like usual and just take notes. You do have to use this template because I think it's a good way to organize your stuff. If you can argue with me that you have a better way to do it, for sure. Like I'm here, open to ideas. But in light of you giving me a better template, I want you to use this. Now, a good question that my seniors have already asked me in my calculus class is like, do I have to take notes on everything? The answer is yes, unless. And so here's the unless. You should take notes on everything because it's a really good practice. If you choose not to, and you then ask for help from Mr. Bruce or myself, one of the first questions we're going to ask you is like, can you share your notes on this? Can you send me your notes? We won't always ask, but if we're like, okay, I want to know where they're at, where they're starting from, we'll ask you to share your notes. If you're like, oh, I haven't done any notes on this, we're going to ask you to go back to this and like take notes on the exercise, the video, the article, whatever you're asking for help on. So please take notes. Now, if you're like, this is really easy for me, I don't need to take notes, it's a review, awesome. We probably won't ask you if you're getting hundreds on stuff. We might not ask you, but it's kind of like a your choice thing. I think if you're not sure if I really get it, or if there's any doubt that, you know, we're going to ask you for it, I would just get in the habit of taking notes, and that way you don't have to worry about it. No matter the year, by the end of the year, you're going to have a whole notebook full of just beautiful, gorgeous math stuff. So please take notes as a default. Don't play the game of like, oh, I think I just go all year without taking notes. That's just not a great way to learn. And then you're going to be able to use notes on big tests and stuff because, I mean, we can't stop you from home from doing that. And we want you to have stuff to refer back to. I'm going to do one more pause. All right, so I'm going to finish showing you 2 other ways you can take notes. You saw me with my notebook. That's what I recommend if you're not sure which way to use. I'm going to share my screen again. In that same folder, I put a PDF form. If you have access to a printer at home and you just don't want to go through the trouble of writing the notes template, you can download the PDF and then just print off copies and use that. That would work great too. But if you don't have a printer and you're not sure if you want to take notes in a notebook, the last option is you can actually be a little more 21st century and take notes completely online. So here's how you do that. You right click on this, because I don't think you can edit it. I hope you can't. And then say make a copy. I'm gonna do it a little bit slower. So right click on it and scroll down to where it says make a copy. And then what I would do is I would go to rename this. And then I would say your name. So Alex Riggs, but actually put your name and your notes template. What you can do now is right click again and say, where do you go? Add shortcut to drive, or you can just move it to your drive. Your drive is basically like an online folder. So if you all click these dots up here, your drive is a way to organize all your materials without having like a physical folder or a notebook. Now, what's really great about this document is if you choose to do that, then I'm gonna click back on here and I'm gonna open it in a Google document. The format stays the same, which is really great. And so what I can do now is what I just did in my notebook, but I can actually take total 21st century notes and not have to do any pencil or pen and notebook all year long. I'm gonna try to really quickly do this. If it's already in your name's already titled it, you don't really need to put your name and class period, but you could still do it if you wanted to. So I can put right here, I can put first and last name. I'll say I'm in, come on computer. I'll say I'm in period 1. The objective we were on was objective 1.1.1. The unit, what's nice about this, I can just go and copy and paste. So you all can access this. So Control C, and then go back and just paste the unit you're in. So you can see it can become a little bit of a time saver. I'm gonna paste it here first. Let's paste it right there. Units, equations, inequalities, and linear equations basics. And today's date, at least for me, is 9/8/2020. The title, I can go back to the Khan Academy article, and I can copy and paste if I want to, but that's pretty easy to remember. Just intro to equations, and the source is just Khan Academy. Organize my notes here. This is going to be an article, so I can just erase that and put a big X. I can also, there's a lot of really great tools in Google Documents. I can insert special characters. I can search for the check mark. I can insert a little check mark saying, yep, this is an article. And I'm going to pause real quick and catch up and actually walk through what I did take notes on in this article. Right, let me share this again. So when I started to read this, the first thing I saw bold was a definition of an equation. So what I did is I just copied and pasted it. I'm fine if you copy and paste your notes because the whole point is for you to remember them. Don't just copy and paste random bolded stuff. Like make sure you read it and it makes sense to you. But an equation is just 2 expressions that are equal. So you can see I pasted it right there. As I kept reading, I did those practice stuff. Talked about what a true equation was, where it's an equation where both the left and right side expressions are equal to each other. So you can see in my notes, I also copy and pasted that right there. And then as I kept reading through, there was one more definition I really liked where it talked about algebraic equations. So I'll show you, whenever we have an equation with a variable, we call it an algebraic equation. So I just Control C to copy, I put in here. So here are my big math facts. Now I would advise you to format this a little better. So I'm going to make this a lot smaller because right now the words are just way too big and taking up too much space. Let me get size 10. Not going to bold or underline anything at first. And then I'm going to bold just the word an equation because that's the big math fact. That's the key vocab word there. And then true equations was the next definition. And then an algebraic equation. So now I have some notes there. The other thing I took notes on was if you go to insert and you go to table, I kind of broke down what the notes were saying was a false equation and what was a true equation. And what's cool with Google Docs is you have a way to actually write in math language. So I can say insert and equation, and it lets you type out equations really easily. So a false equation was 7 minus 2. We had equals 7 plus 1. That's a false equation. That's not a true statement. What's nice now is I can just copy and paste below, write some more equations. This was, we had x plus 2 equals 6 when x equals 3, because that would be 5 equals 6, so that's not true. Now I can just kind of copy and paste some of this stuff over and save some time. We had some true equations, 10. Go back to insert an equation. 10 equals 8 plus 2. I'll wrap this up. This was when x equals 4. Then I had more examples of equations that were in the notes where we had g plus 3 equals 10. We decided that g must equal 7. If you don't put an equation first, you can go back and put insert equation and it'll make it, oh, I was wrong. So on and so forth. So this is another option you have. You'll notice that I have a lot more space. If you choose to take notes online, like you can backspace a lot of the space. And now you just have, saving room on one page with multiple notes templates. So it's up to you how you want to take notes, but you do have to take notes. So think about what method you think is going to work best for you. And as always, if you have questions, reach out to Mr. Bruce or myself. Thanks for watching.